Well, there's a chair, and there's Emil. Amazing. Perfect. So we kind of got the hang of Instagram Live eventually. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Die Rollin. Hi, Matt. Nice to see you. And yeah, Emil, if I start talking to random people, it's because I don't know whether you can see the chat. Can you see the chat?
See the chat.
Perfect, yeah. That's fine.
So
this is the first in a series of talking to some very interesting game publishers / developers / designers or other random people. And Emil has kindly joined me here this evening on Valentine's night of all nights because we're hopeless romantics, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so romantic that my wife went to Belarus, so yeah.
And she left you here?
Well, it's just how it is. Like, the kids have visas and stuff. They can easily go. I need to have mine created and work and all that stuff. Kind of got in.
So did you just wake up and they were gone with a letter saying I've gone to Belarus, or were you aware of this?
No. I had to drive them to the airport and all that stuff.
Okay, fair enough.
So, yeah.
So there's a few things we're going to talk about tonight. The kind of the burning thing we're going to talk about is, of course, Emil's really fantastic game Rogue Angels, which is great fun. We've played it on Tabletop Simulator a couple of months ago, maybe last year at some point, and had a blast. It was great fun. So yeah, we're going to go through a few things. And to begin with, let's just find out about Emil. So this is our getting to know me, well, not me, you section. So Emil, tell us all about you. So who are you and what do you do?
Well, that's a long question, right? Or big question, but what do I do? I have, for everyday work, it's not board gaming because that's not sustainable yet, but I do leadership training, and I also study on the side, like I said, getting into trouble with the teachers and all that stuff. Getting to university at this age is you get kind of immune to some of their theoretical musing. But yeah, I study and I do leadership training, consulting on leadership, do different things for CEOs here and there, and yeah, leaders in different positions. And then when I have the chance, I develop board games. So yeah, I have a wife and 2 kids. A house, car, all those things.
You're living the dream, aren't you?
Well, it is some dream. So I mean, no, I cannot complain at all. I cannot complain. I mean, I'm lucky where I am, and yeah.
And where in the world are you right now? We've already ascertained you're not in Belarus.
Yeah, I'm in Denmark, so not too far from you.
Indeed. No. So you make board games. And so you've made one board game previously, or have you done more board games I'm unaware of?
And published 2: Burning Suns and Burning Rome. So. And then,
So what's Burning Rome about then? Is it about burning Rome? Romans?
Yeah, well, if you took Burning Suns and said like that is a board game version or a adaptation of Sins of the Solar Empire, if that rings a bell.
Yeah,
it's like an old 4X sci-fi game, computer game. Then Burning Rome would be the real-time combat of taking Hearthstone and put together with the real-time elements of the combat of Rome Total War.
Okay.
That was one of the things that fascinated me, was how could I make Rome Total War into a board game? And I did the whole game, and then because it was a bit of a bigger game, I thought, okay, I will just single out the battle aspect and just make that part of the game to begin with. And I actually contacted Creative Assembly and Sega back in the days and was like, do you want a board game, based on your IP? And they were like, I think Sega lawyers will not like you, so no, that's not enough. And here they are, right? They just finished the Kickstarter like not too long ago.
That's it, yeah. I bet you were. Did you, when you saw that come up, were you like green? Were you like, oh, really, guys? Like, I spoke to you about this like years ago.
Yeah, I asked them, like, that must have been in 2017 or something. I said,
right.
You need a board game for this, or you can get this template I have would work perfectly for your game. But yeah.
So this is something that's happening more and more often these days, I find anyway, that there are adaptations of different media into board games. So the same way that, like, not too long ago, they started making, like, computer games of films. They've started doing, like, board games of computer games or board games of films. So what do you feel like that's a really good kind of step forward in the right direction now? What do you think to, like, modern day kind of board games that are based on computer games? Have you played any or / many?
I have not played that. I'm trying to figure out. Like, I have not played many games for a game design, to be honest. To be completely honest, I have probably tested, or I played less than 100 board games, and I've tested many more different types of games, right? But I have not played more than 100 different games, and none of them have been movie versions of board games, which I think is actually I don't think it's per se a healthy trend. Like, I love taking a look at computer games and turning aspects into board games, but it is very different than just taking an IP from a computer game and turn it into a board game, to my mind. Because I think all this, the problem with just grabbing IPs everywhere is that you miss out on the creativity of creating something. It's actually, I would say, it's not a problem for Lego. Lego is the biggest toy company in the world. I understand that. But there is a risk of, if you're only dabbing into IPs, you are actually not creating yourself. Now they still have that in Lego and stuff, but you can see that trend in many many board games, coming out now, is that some companies have specialized in just taking IPs.
Yes.
Like, that's all good and dandy, and I know it works for the bottom line, sure. But the thing is, can you create something yourself suddenly? And if you do this for too long period, then suddenly you lose the creative spark of actually trying to develop something yourself. So I would say it's good sometimes that IPs go into different media, but it's also, it can be problematic. I think it can be a challenge in the long run.
Yeah, I think you're bang to rights on that. On our channel, I've done several different solo gameplays of things like Resident Evil, for instance, which obviously was a computer game first, and some of them I've actually quite enjoyed and thought, oh, they've tried to emulate the game in such a way. They've thought about the game mechanics. They've really taken time to really try to make that experience into a board game per se. Whereas other ones I played, like Horizon Zero Dawn, which was just awful, but actually made by the same company as well. It was very much like, oh, we've got all these really nice shiny miniatures, but we didn't decide to actually make any game, which is a problem when you have a board game, right?
Yeah.
I want to play with something. It's nice to paint stuff or look at things, but yeah. So I'm going to ask you now, if you were on a desert island with me, it'd be a scary prospect to begin with for you, but if we were on a desert island, what board game would you bring with you, and why?
That's a good question. Yeah. That is a good question. I'm not entirely sure. It would probably have to be something a bit light, so we could, play it and decide who would go and fetch the dinner and all that stuff. If you're somewhere, it would be too dramatic to have something like Robinson Crusoe.
Yeah, it'd be too real, right?
Yeah, too much on the nose, right? on the current situation, right? So it would have to be something lighter, funnier. But yeah, I'm not sure. I've always enjoyed Cyclades. It's like a very good, not too heavy game for most occasions, I think. So, yeah, could be something like that. It's a bigger one, but yeah, for veteran gamers, it's not a problem.
That's it. You want something to distract you from the impending terror of insanity or starvation, really, and the inevitable cannibalism that would happen. Right?
Yeah. Eventually, yeah, sure.
Perfect. So this brings me on to worst game made good. What would you say, in your honest opinion? I kind of have this my own opinion that there's no real terrible games out there. Like everyone enjoys games in different ways, and there's a game for everybody. But if you were to name one game which you would say is probably the worst game you've played, what game would that be?
The worst game I played, there's plenty. The nostalgia kind of, blurs out some of the fun things, and you're like, oh well, that was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was cool. It was not cool, right? It was just really, just jumping around and stuff and choosing either to kick or to beat somebody.
Yeah.
That's an old game, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But one of the recent ones, and I know people will hate me for that, but I really, really dislike Splendor, like really a lot. And I mean, it is a good game. It is a good game by the standards of which makes other people play the games. But it's also a really bad game because it's like, well, I have my spreadsheet, you have your spreadsheet. Oh, that's fun. So we'll fill them out together. No, just separately. Okay, yeah. So if I take this one here in my spreadsheet, oh, okay, that's fine. Like, I mean, that whole interaction, boy, it's like, I hate it. There's no interaction, right? There's no interaction. There's no anything. The poker chips kind of thing is nice, but it's.
Okay, no,
I'm sorry.
I played Splendor recently. It's one of those games which, when people find out you haven't played, they're like, how have you not, you've played so many games, how have you not played this game? And I played it probably last year at some point, and I enjoyed it, but I agree with you. It's very much, you're kind of very separate from everyone at the table, no real player interaction, which when I'm playing a game, I never play to win. I always play just to enjoy people's company. When you're playing a game which is so kind of, you're playing together, but apart, as it were. Mm-hmm. I can appreciate why that would be people would come away from the table a bit like, there's other games I prefer. So Christopher here, who's one of our, he's my brother actually. He's one of our other YouTubers. So he says Seafall is the worst game, and we played that together. Seafall, it's a kind of legacy game, and yeah, we just couldn't get on with it. We'd done Risk Legacy, we'd done Pandemic Legacy Season 1, and then we went on to Seafall. And it was a little disappointing. But Chris was probably right. We probably were playing it wrong. So this comes to the next part of this. So this little segment was worst game made good. So Splendor, how would you as a designer make that better?
Whoa. Well, I did my toes into trying to make games better, like, the Monopoly, classic Monopoly. I will make that game better. And even though I probably did make it better with my iteration, it's still not a great game, right? I'm not sure, like, the whole premise of something like Splendor is what's wrong with it. It's not take a computer game like the new Jurassic World Evolution or something. There's a computer game, right?
Yeah.
And just to explain the premise of, it's a sim building game where you have to manage your park, right? What is the fun thing about Jurassic Park? That is that the dinosaurs go out and eat people.
The dinosaurs escaping and killing people. Yeah.
Exactly. So what is the fun thing about a simulator like, SimCity or something like the Sim Park or whatever theme park, is that your park is running smoothly.
Yeah.
These two things conflict, and that's where I'm like, there's something wrong, and so therefore there's something wrong with the premise of that game. Just to name a computer game, then in the example, But the same goes for Splendor, is that, games need to be played together. When we are not sitting and doing anything together, it is not of interest. So making that better is to not make it, like to make something different. I'm not sure I could make it better. It doesn't need a fine tune. It's the premise of the game that's wrong.
So straight out of the starting gate, it's like, actually, this game is so entrenched with how it is. You don't feel there's a way you could improve upon that. It's just a game that's not for you.
It would be a completely different game. So, yeah.
Fair enough. And I agree with you completely on those Jurassic Park games. Like, you want to play a Jurassic Park game where you're just trying to escape from dinosaurs and people are getting picked up left, right, and center. Like, do a game where like something like Fortnite, where you've got all the players in one place and then they just let the dinosaurs out, and it's a kind of battle royale, last person standing thing. See, or just trying to get from point A to point B kind of thing. That'd be fun. But yeah, maintaining your own dinosaur park and feeding them goats and clearing up poop. Oh, you got sick dinosaur. Oh, wow, that's not as exciting as watching Samuel Jackson's arm suddenly appear from nowhere. He's not connected to it.
Yeah.
So we're on to...
really, it's funny how those things conflict, right? Because you have a good premise for one type of game, and you have a functional mechanic for another type of game, but they don't, interlock. And the same for Splendor, right? You have some good mechanics, no questions asked. Like, there are good mechanics in that game for engine building and all that stuff, but then you have no player interaction, and I don't like those. I cannot make those fit because, they need to fit. Or you need player interaction. You need something that makes you want to sit and play board game. So,
yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're on to the next segment of this. Just barreling through this for our first ever kind of live chat here, Emil. I hope you don't mind. So we're on to the 3-minute pitch, where I'm essentially going to hand over all of this to you to basically pitch us your newest game, Rogue Angels. So I have a little clock here, my little watch. I'm going completely analog here, so I'm just going to cue you in a second, and then you've got to go. So you've got 5 seconds now to get ready. Prepare, and you're not prepared for this at all, so good luck to you. And go, 3 minutes.
Yeah. 3 minutes to talk about Rogue Angels. Well, Rogue Angels is my personal take on how I envision a Mass Effect computer game as a board game, but completely envisioned in my world, the world I've created with Burning Suns, and with my interpretation of what are fun computer game mechanics put into a board game. Like, what are those mechanics can I turn into a board game? And on top of that, I want to evolve the hack and slash genre. So the standard Gloomhaven, Imperial Assault, all these kind of games go after the premise of you need to kill some enemies, some bad guys, and then you will win. Like, that is the premise of those games to progress. And I want to take that in a new direction and create a board game that embraces some of the elements that you have in computer games, which are, you can have different ways of solving missions, solving quests, solving different things coming up, right? So it's a multiple path journey through a long campaign, and it takes you a lot of player decisions, and puts a lot of player decisions into players' hands, and how they want to approach the missions, how they want to play the game, essentially, while also choosing a lot of different different characters, and So there is so much I can say about the game itself. So I have no idea how many minutes I have.
You have 1 minute left.
Yeah. What else? It has all the other elements that you could find in such a game, like different asymmetric powers and enemy AI and stuff. And I've tried to implement all these things in a interesting cooldown mechanic with a relative damage system that doesn't have health points like you see in most games, and an enemy AI, which is more engaging, I think, and more narratively driven. So yeah, that was just a ramble.
Well, you sold it to me because I've already played it, so I'm already on board with it because it's great fun. Christopher's asked, will it have a Paragon/Renegade function? So Christopher's speaking of the kind of morality track, I guess, right?
Yeah, like Mass Effect originated kind of from their way of doing Knights of the Old Republic computer games, and there they had light and dark side, so that was pretty obvious they could not have that kind of thing, and then they went for this Paragon Renegade, which is more like a being nice to people, being a bit of a jerk, and sometimes an evil person, right? But and I have relationships in the game, so you can probably get to romance somebody as well. But there are relationship allegiances with characters and factions in the game. But instead of painting it as good or bad, I paint it more as you're perceived as being positive and you're perceived in a negative way. But those things can be, both of them can be good and bad. So if an evil guy perceives your positive traits, they might look at you as weak, where some who like you will look at them look in a positive light, right? And in the same way, the negative areas where some characters will look at you and be like, "Oh, you're a bit of a jerk." Somebody will be scared of you instead. So, I'm trying not to do a morale system, and the different decisions you can do in the game are not bound by a moral choice, but by the choice of the situation. So I try to go with that because I'm not there to lift any fingers and point towards people. I want to explore the nature of people and their decisions.
So with the campaign itself, so talk a bit about the campaign, because I know that when we sat down and played that, and you can check out our video playthrough on our channel. There was you mentioned about the actual story going on, and kind of, did it have a branching narrative in there? Did you say? Or yeah, I thought you did. So could you talk a little bit about the campaign? Because from my perspective, when I sit down to play a board game, and it's going to be a game which hopefully I'm going to get out with the same group of people for like 10, 20 sessions or something like that, there's a certain amount of commitment that you're going to be putting in for like a big game like this. So like when it's a game where I'm just thinking of something like Star Saga, which is a similar kind of theme. It's like a space dungeon crawler. And you're these mercenaries going on board this kind of research facility. But the problem with the narrative of that game is you just have like, let's say there's 10 missions in there. If you fail in one of those missions, it's kind of game over. You just have to redo that mission. There's no kind of resolution to go down a different path, as it were. Whereas I know Imperial Assault, they kind of did it where one player's like the dark side, or you can have that app so you're playing cooperatively, and the story kind of branches. So that's me just kind of rabbiting on for anyone who doesn't understand how narrative campaigns work. But so where does your kind of game sit in that kind of frame? Or does it completely explode out of that horrible structure I've just mentioned?
Yeah. Well, besides the first mission, which is a introduction mission, where I force people to play it again if they fail it. Only one couple have failed it out of 150 games or something. So, it's all good. But after the first mission, once you're done with the introduction, all missions fail forward. So, and that's because I want to, so you could say in a way there are multiple ways of winning, but winning is not the same thing. There are, the game and the campaign branches, but it also branches within missions. So you have campaign with several missions, right? And these missions will stretch on, and they will branch out to separate missions where you can only choose to go to one mission, then the other will be locked off, and so on, and maybe it will branch even further from there. And inside missions, the missions themselves branches. So because missions are divided into segments. So a mission is is usually 3 or 4 or 5 segments. And that's to make sure that players do not see the entirety of the mission and cannot foresee what will be going on. They will get a mission brief that tells them what they should prepare for, what they're going into, but they will not know how the enemies, whether or not they're prepared for them, what they're doing, what might be the outfall of it all, right? So missions branch inside themselves or have different outcomes. So you might fail at a certain point in a mission and go to a different branch, which might give you an opportunity to get back on track, or might bring you to another end. So an example would be the first mission has 2 different endings. Like the last thing can branch a little bit. The second mission has a branch in the middle and then keeps on that, and so it ends with 2 different endings there, but there is intertwined. And then you get to a point where the 8th mission has 5 different endings because you have different legacy elements, like the relationship with some of the characters from the first several missions are now compiled into, like, you have different options. So maybe some options will be closed for you because you have good friends to a certain, or maybe you've been real douchebag to somebody and therefore another option is open, right? So, but of course it doesn't branch like forever because that would not be possible, right? So I do, like Mass Effect and other huge games do, is that they sometimes make narrow points you have to go through. So that way you can control the branching, and maybe, so for example, the 5 different endings, while they will have to continue for one mission moving forward, I can kind of slim it down to maybe 2 different missions suddenly, and then out again, you know. But some of the legacy elements will stay. So, you know, your relationship with that character will stay and can then be brought up on the 20th mission at some point, right? So I really want it to be, there are 2 different things in it. I make sure that the first segment of a mission can be replayed. So if you fail on the very first segment of a mission, you can redo the mission. Because if you fail there, you might not have had a proper look into the enemies or the, you know, strengths of the mission. I don't want the game to be punishing. Like, oh, okay, you didn't see that enemy over there, and now he sliced you in half. Tough luck. But after the first segment of every mission, you can only move forward. There's no going back. There's no redoing different choices. Whether or not you might have killed somebody along the way, you might have executed somebody, you might have treated somebody differently. Once you've done that, you cannot go back. So from there on, it moves forward.
Okay. What about the character progression in there? So I'm assuming that people are going to be leveling up and they'll make choices, have different kind of like gear and stuff. So how's your kind of character progression work? Oh, and obviously my brother's on the same wavelength as me because he's literally just asked the same question I've just asked there, which is what kind of character development is there throughout the campaign? We like the same kind of games, so we're obviously on the same wavelength here.
Rogue Angels does not delve into character progression in the same way as other games, similar games I've seen, at least. The thing is, you progress with... I should have the prototype here so I could show all the different things, but that's just a lesson learned for next time around. But people can look up Rogue Games. They can see all the different things on TTS. There's a free prototype to play as much as people want. Characters have personalities. And if you've ever seen a disc test or format or estimate or any of these personality tests, you have seen this square, this circle diagram where you have different attributes, like you can be dominating, you can be inspiring, supportive, or cautious, displaced in a diagram. It might be called something different depending on what consultants firm is making money of these different personality tests, right? But it's kind of the same. So, and these personality traits are developed through the game. So you upgrade your character and not really upgrade, but you develop their personality through the choices you make in the campaign. So if you decide to execute some civilians, you might get a different personality trait based on that than if you heal two of your teammates. That might give you a different outcome in personality. And the campaign kind of picks and chooses what elements and what choices will be not rewarded, but will be, given these certain personality attributes, right? And these marks are then put on your character, which means that moving forward, these marks will grant you personality tokens of that particular type, which you can then use to upgrade your cards to have more impactful measures for your action card, which is the way you perform actions. So you might have weapons, abilities, and stuff like that, and those action cards give you different options. And depending on what personality tokens you have, you might be able to, you have dominating personality tokens, you might use them to deal more damage through your action cards. If you have cautious, you might be able to increase the range of which you're hitting with the weapon, right? Because a cautious personality would probably have equipped the weapon with something so the person can use it on a bit longer range, right? But you don't want to get into a fist fight. So upgrades are based on personality, and you will then be able to upgrade these cards you have with further some stickers that will then further improve depending on exactly the tokens you have, right? So and because I don't want, I'm not so keen on this classic just now I have a certain XP and now I level up. I like the idea of, I've trained many soldiers, and the thing is, soldiers, they personalize their equipment based on who they are. And they do. I've seen that many times. So people who are very much into urban fighting, their weapon will have more grips and handles that makes it better for them to do urban fighting. So in that way, I wanted to make sure that action cards would and the personality tokens kind of reflect a character developing, not so much level up.
Wow,
that was it.
It sounds great. Now, just quickly, so you mentioned stickers in there. Is this a legacy game, or is there replayability in this? Personally, from my perspective, I quite enjoy legacy games because like a campaign game, I'll probably play once, and that'll be that. But legacy games, I kind of feel like are a nice kind of experience that is a shared experience, and you kind of go away with like a unique game. But yeah, you mentioned stickers. So is your game a legacy? Has it got legacy elements, or is it completely replayable?
It's contained legacy. Now, I have contained all legacy within characters. So if you play with a character and that character progresses, that character has legacy with other characters, with within personality, different upgrades on cards. So you could replay the entire campaign with a new character, and you could make different choices, get a different character, get a different personality, but also make different choices on where to go, where, on missions, and so on and so forth. So there's replayability with new characters and different choices, just like you would see in some computer games, right? But I mean, I'm planning on having resettable stickers and wipe something you can wipe for those who want that. So there will be an upgrade because many people think it loses, like that. It needs to retain value after you've played it for 150 hours or something. Anyone can get to that point, but it's fine.
I always find it really interesting because people are very split over legacy style games where you have a one playthrough, one and done kind of thing. Like I said, I personally don't mind them because like I have campaign games in my collection which I played once to fruition and then I will never go back to them. But I had a great time during them. But I don't think there's anything wrong with anyone who wants to, obviously retain that value and play multiple times. So it's nice that you've got your vision of what you would like that game to be, but you've also had the option for, if somebody wants to do, reuse it or do something else with that. So yeah, that sounds pretty good. I wanted to go back to I meant to ask you with the Renegade and Paragon thing in Mass Effect. Obviously, you're a fan of Mass Effect. So my question to you, Emil, is which path did you go down when you played Mass Effect? And there's no judgment here, but did you go down, you were a paragon of virtue, or were you a despicable badass who just swore at everyone and bedded as many aliens as possible?
Well, no, the thing is, there are definitely some instances where you want to be renegade, but I could not kill Mordin or kill Rex and stuff, so I of course ended up being paragon. But the interesting part is, even though I played it again, I played it the exact same way. Like, I was the same person, because that was my shepherd, Femship, also. Like, I mean, once you've heard Jennifer Hale's voice, you're like, yeah, okay, that's how it is. Yeah. And, like, I've only experienced Mass Effect once. Like, the first time I experienced it, it was fabulous. I played it afterwards, but I'm not experiencing it anymore, right? The first time was by far the best time, and you cannot really relive that. And that's why I have no problem with legacy games, is because, nothing is infinite anyways. So, I mean, we all have to leave at some point. So, and I still remember the first time I played the suicide mission in Mass Effect 2, and it was just like, because they did this where the last elements of the suicide mission is not pre-rendered, right? It's rendered as it goes, which is so impactful, because you know that your decisions have impact on that. If it was pre-rendered, I would have known that, okay, from here on, I can just watch what's happening. I don't have any impact on it, right? But doing it where it was not pre-rendered meant that, I lost one of the characters along the way in this mission, right? And I was like, that was like, oh no, can I lose any more? Because, I cannot see into the future. I love that aspect, and that's probably the most important aspect that I want to carry on to my own game, is this. Even though it goes at a slower pace of all games, you can never surprise people in the same way. They read, and they have to understand before they can be surprised. But I want to get as close as possible I can to this, like, moment. I love and I will not spoil anything, but the 8th mission is kind of like, what would you call it, like a conclusion to the first chapter of my game. So, there will be roughly 40 missions in the whole campaign playthrough, right? And the 8th mission was a bit of a tying up some loose ends, right? And I loved my friend who was testing it and who hadn't tried the 8th mission. I had him try it, and I remember when he read the page what happened, because we ended at one of these 5 points, and he was like, he got all silent for a moment. I could hear that he was like, whoa. And afterwards he had to say, but you killed this person. Like, what, a character dies, right? And he was like, he needed just a few seconds where he was like, he couldn't really, he's a game designer also, so, and he couldn't really grasp the implications at that point, which I just loved. It was like such a triumph, right? To see him just be, puzzled for a few seconds there, where he tried to look at the ramifications of the outcome of that mission. That was awesome.
That's fantastic, because the games I enjoy the most are the ones where you kind of, you sit down, you play them, and you get immersed in there. Like the thematic games, it's really bringing you, you care about what's going on with the characters and stuff. And like years later, you'll talk to your friend you play that game with and be like, oh, do you remember when that happened? Or there'll be like little in-jokes and stuff. So that's well done, to have your designer friend basically play that game and go, just be, oh my God, what? That must have been fantastic. So that was great, and I think you really, taking on, the mantle of trying to adapt Mass Effect to a board game. For me as well, it was in such a particular part of my life where there was no other games like that. They all had kind of, there'd be sequels and stuff, but you didn't really affect anything. Like, your choices might affect that game, but it wouldn't go on to anything further. And I just remember, it's spoilers but the game's very old now. But like, one thing you did in the first game where you saved a particular alien race, or you didn't. And I saved a particular alien race, and they're like, Shepard, we'll thank you in the future. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then that very last battle in the third one, I was like, oh my God, it's all going wrong or whatever. And then this alien race turned up that I saved. And it's like, my God, I'm important. I did something.
Yeah, it's fun when things come back and haunt you or help you in a way that you did not foresee. It's always a bit when you can see it 1,000 miles ahead, right? It's like, yeah, okay. I really enjoy that.
Well, we're going to move on to the next part. There's only 2 more parts to this now, Emil. Well, I think we're doing well so far. Are you enjoying yourself?
Yeah.
You're a captive audience.
That's how it is to be a guinea pig. Yeah.
So this next bit is Ask the Host. So you can ask me one question. It can be about anything. And for anyone who's watching this, Emil's had no time to prepare for this whatsoever. So this is completely off topic.
No. Okay, yeah. Are you going to Spiel this year?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. So I regularly go to the UK Games Expo. It's like something I really love doing. It's just around the corner from where I live now. But unfortunately, this year I can't go there because there's a family wedding going on. And next year I can't go because there's a family wedding going on the same weekend. So Essen was like, well, maybe I could go to Essen this year. I went to Essen in 2018, maybe, I think it was. I only ever went there once and kind of found it really just so big and so packed. And I was, I'm an extroverted person, but I found it very difficult to go up and talk to people and try to sit down and play games with people. I played probably 3 games when I was there for 8 hours or something. But yeah, it was fun, and it was nice going, I recognise that person. Oh, I've seen them on YouTube. So to answer your question, I am intending to go this year, but it all depends on if I can afford to, because it's very pricey. And you look at those hotel rooms, any other time, Essen, it's like, yeah, it's quite cheap, come over here. But over that weekend, it's ridiculously. So I might. There's a little asterisk. I'm going asterisk if I can afford to go. Are you going, Emil?
I mean, if my Kickstarter succeed, I will treat myself, I think, to go there and talk to people. Yeah, and I would love to anyways, but it also depends on the family. And I think my son is soon old enough to be able to get some enjoyment out of it, I think so. But this year, hopefully, but yeah, it's very hard knowing what's going on in the world.
Yeah, so exactly. Might be another lockdown. Might be a new variant. Hopefully not.
I'm just so over this.
Yes. How have you coped during COVID? Have you had a fairly peaceful existence? Has it been really stressful? How's it been?
No, I mean, it has been very, very pleasant for us in general. I cannot complain about anything. My wife's work improved, and I've in general just been able to pack open, Rogue Angels, kind of just, unfold that game during this period. And the studies I didn't attend much anyway, so just watching a few classes here and there online, yeah, whatever. And no, we just caught it 4 weeks ago or something. We all had it at the same time. It was at this point, it's I've had hangovers that have been worse than COVID. At this point, it's just a mild whatever. So that's fine. We avoided it for as long as was necessary, I guess. I don't know. But I really look forward to just hugging people again. It's been nice to because that was the worst part of, just not being able to. I hate this, like, I don't want to touch your hands, like, just go away. I mean, if you don't want to touch my hands, you don't gain my trust. So, yeah, I really had, as one who's been teaching people to gain trust through emotions and through touch and through talk and communication, it was very disheartening to see, this not shaking hands be a thing. That was.
Yeah. Well, Emil, if we ever do meet, I'll make sure to properly shake your hand. I'll just remember. Yeah. Well, I'm glad it's been fairly fine for you. It's a tricky subject. COVID, bless it. So we're moving on to the hard question now, and I had a really hard question. I thought that's really unfair to ask that question. So instead, I'm going to ask a less depressing question. And the hard question for tonight's romantic Valentine's evening is: aliens, do they exist in your opinion?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I really hope so. But then again, I've seen too many different kurzgesagt videos to maybe somewhere I might not hope, actually, because it seems like if they were, they would wipe us out as soon as they saw us. Like, what do we do to ants? We squeeze them, right? Because it doesn't matter to us. So if something's out there, I hope they are still on a very minuscule scale of technology. But it would be nice if there was somebody out there.
I agree with you. It would be nice to think that's the case. I just worry for the implications, because even if they came and they weren't wanting to destroy us, I'm fairly certain the human species would just completely just like enslave them if they could. We're terrible. We're terrible beings. So it's interesting.
I don't see it end well, no matter who has the upper hand. I don't see it end well.
No. And Christopher says he thinks they do exist, but they probably have the good sense to give us a wide berth. Yes, probably. And there's always the argument that actually there are aliens out there, but they get to a particular point in their civilization, fairly similar to where we are at the moment, where they destroy themselves, which is potentially what will happen with us.
Yeah, the Great Filter, or whatever it's called, the Fermi paradox, I think. Yeah, where everything is self-destroying at some point. Yeah. So that could be.
The answer is you hope so, but you hope they stay away.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. So, Emil, your game is, you're planning on roughly when are you going to try to launch Rogue Angels?
Well, I mean, my backend for the latest date to launch Rogue Angels again on Kickstarter would be 1st of August. I don't think I can wait any longer. Like, I mean, I want this game out there, and it's still, like, I mean, I have people who have returned for the 6th and 7th and 8th time testing the game, and they really, really, really enjoy it. I mean, it has all the marks of what a successful game looks like. So now I just need to make it successful. The small little part, written in the contract, right? I need to make it successful.
Yeah, and as someone who has played that, I know that we play a lot of games, and I'm not just saying this because you're here. I've told you previously. It's one game we all came away from, and we all were like, "Oh, I really want to see what happens next. Like, this is really interesting. Like, it's quite fun." And the fact that we didn't mention actually, but what's your save system between games?
Well, basically there is none. Like there is a save game mechanic, and there's luckily nothing you have to keep track on. That's my feeling. Like, there's nothing to keep track on because everything is already on your character sheet, on your card. So you kind of like, there's nothing like, what level was I on last time, and you have to replace different things and stuff. No, it's all like just kept kept track by itself. So, but yeah, you store the things away. Your save game is that you can store all the things in a ship-sized, not ship-sized, but a smaller box inside the gaming box that also is the ship of the game. So you can play in this area as well. Sometimes, your ship will be boarded by aliens and whatnot who might want to, enslave you, whatever they might want to, or just tax you for flying through a certain space, right? So yeah, you have your ship, which is a box that you can also both play in and then later on save your game.
It was great. Like it looks amazing. Just the tabletop simulator version we played. I just remember like thinking, oh, that the actual when you pack this up, all the components go inside your little spaceship for next time. Like that's it's cool. It's lovely and thematic, and like I said, I love thematic games and games that immerse you, and that just adds to like it's just a nice little touch that's like, oh, I haven't seen that done in the game before. So Emil, thank you so much for spending the time to go through this with me, and if you have any interest in this game whatsoever, everyone who's watching this, then we will have a link to our playthrough below, and I'll also chuck over a link to Sun Tzu Games, so you can actually go and check out all their stuff. And yeah, every luck for the Kickstarter, and hopefully I'll be able to get all the guys together for another playthrough for it, because honestly, I'm champing at the bit at this moment, wanting to get back to that game. So yeah, excellent. Anything from you, Emil, to say goodbye to people? Anything you want to throw out there into the universe?
No. I mean, I'm very, very happy that you wanted to have me on to try and experiment with this setup. So now I can cross that off my bucket list.
That's it. Well,
Instagram interview. Yeah.
That's it.
So people can find my game on if they search for Rogue Angels or Sun Tzu Games, they will find me.
Perfect. And of course, I'll have you back for the 100th episode.
Mm-hmm.
Just
yeah.
Once it's gone. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching, and until next time, everyone, stay safe and keep rolling.